During the beginning of freshman year, I was 3 to 4 months in on my self improvement. I had begun trying to optimize my diet. I had begun trying to quit all the bad habits like pornography, masturbation, video games, all that. The junk food. I was trying to quit all of these things and replace them with productivity, focus, meditation, journaling, fitness, health, proper sleep schedule, all that. This I had started this journey after eighth grade. And this is important to note because if you watched my other videos, you would know that eighth grade was my worst year of, I think, my life. I I kept all of the bad habits that I had been doing for the past years were finally starting to affect me in real ways. Because when you're 7 years old and you play video games all day, nobody really cares because nobody expects you to do anything real. But this is eighth grade. One more year and I'm going into high school. I can't keep messing around. I'm I essentially failed math for 3 marking periods, and they let me go simply because failing students and having them repeat looks bad on the school. So they probably just let me go. But nonetheless, I was doing extremely poorly academically. I was smoking a lot of weed. I was playing a lot of video games, fapping every single day, feeling sluggish and tired, waking up eating junk food, being up till 3, 4 a.m., eating Doritos, going to sleep without brushing my teeth. All of these degenerate bad habits, I was doing them during eighth grade. And so when summer came around, I had a friend who had already been talking to me about going to the gym and self improvement. And so I listened to him. I said, you know what, you're right. I have to improve myself because I can't I can't survive the real world unless I do this. Unless I make a change to my lifestyle, I'm going to be the same loser for the rest of my life and I can't have that because I want to have a good future. I don't want to be daydreaming about success. I want to have the success. I want to be able to say, you know, to sit my mom down and be like, okay, you don't have to work anymore. I retired you. I want to be able to do that. But if you don't make a change to your life, you can't. And so during the summer, right after eighth grade, I began embarking on self improvement. And I continued this up until now, and I am going to continue it. But the point is that during the beginning of freshman year, the friends that I had made during eighth grade weren't actually all that different. Now, if you know anything about having friends, you would know that usually when you hang out with people, it's because you two have something in common. You share activities, you share beliefs, something. You guys get along. You're compatible with each other. Now, I was trying to quit junk food. I was trying to quit video games, to sleep earlier, all that. But the friends that I had, not all of them were doing that. And even if they were, not all of them were taking it as seriously as I was. So because they were my friends, they would always ask me to hang out and play video games and just one more round. Oh, do you just eat the Snickers, dude? It's one movie. Just do this one thing. It's one time. It's not gonna affect you in any way. Just do it, bro. Just do it. And because they're my friends, I listened to them. And I said, okay, you're right. Yeah, it is just one movie. Okay, one more round. And, 10 a.m. turns to 12 a.m. 10 p.m. turns to 12 a.m. 12 a.m. turns to 3 a.m. And just then am I considering getting off. Or maybe I'll pull an all-nighter, who knows. But the friends that I had were actually still dragging me down. And I wasn't making as much progress as I could because I was trying to make a change to my lifestyle, but I was still feeling obligated to hang out and do activities with people that were counterintuitive with my goals. These people, they don't care about self-improvement. They don't want to quit video games. They don't want to optimize their diet. They don't give a fuck about that. And so when they ask me to do something and I feel obligated to say yes, and I end up having all this fun right up until I turn the console off and I'm feeling like shit afterwards. The only one who is affected is me. The only one who suffers is me. Of course, they're suffering too, but they just don't know it. I'm aware that I'm trying to get away from this and I'm still caving into it. The point that I'm making here is that feeling obligated to hang out with people, feeling obligated to maintain social circles, friends, and etc., to be the one guy who, the reliable guy who always shows up, that's an incredibly destructive habit. And if you're trying to get onto self-improvement, if you're trying to continue improving your life, this is going to eat away at you. And you're going to be forced into an ultimatum, either yourself or the pleasure. And if you pick the pleasure, that's it. You're losing a ton of progress. Now, this leads me to my next point, which is that if you want to continue improving your life, inevitably, your social circle will have to get smaller and you'll have less time and you will be less available for these activities to begin with. And the activities themselves will be less and less degenerate. So, right now, my friend group, like people who I truly consider friends, maybe like one or two people. Last year, I had 4 or 5, maybe 6 people, my friend. Hold on. Let me count this real quick so I can give you an exact number. Yeah. So 4 people. 4 people who I was consistently talking to and hanging out with last year. Now, that number is down to 1 to 2. The more you improve your life, the more seriously that you take self-improvement and self-development, the less people are going to be around you. And as a matter of fact, people are going to be pushed away by you. Like, there will be people who genuinely get angry at you for your habits. So, for example, just a few days ago, I was talking to someone in my class about I forget how it came up, but I was talking about estrogenics. And no, I was talking about stoicism and how I didn't want to indulge in this one thing that, like, I follow a philosophy that says I can't do that. And then another day, I was correcting the same person on her judgment of other people because she was saying, "Oh, this stupid girl bumped into me," and she gave me this dirty look. And I was telling her to not get angry at her because she probably has done the same thing to someone else in the past. Both times, I got told that I was weird and that what I was saying didn't make sense. There was, if you've ever seen the meme of the fluoride stare, where it's just like you say something and the people just look at you, they have no idea what you're talking about. Get ready to have that be a daily experience. Like, at first, that meme was funny to me, but now I'm realizing that it's reality. Like, this is, the more on self-improvement, the more you get into self-improvement, the more of an outcast you become. And so get ready for that. Get ready to start denying people, essentially. People, activities, things like that. Get ready for a period of being alone. So now we must talk about the advantages of being alone. So first and foremost, let's talk about time. Obviously, if you're on self-improvement, you want to be productive. And to be productive, you need time on your hands. If you want to focus on a business, that becomes nigh impossible if you have like 4 other things that are taking up your schedule. And so having time is really important. Now, of course, you have to couple this with skills like time management and avoiding procrastination, things like that. But having time is essential. And so the first benefit that you get from being alone and having less people around you is that you have more time for things that genuinely matter to you. If I'm hanging out with people on the weekends, although that may not seem like a big deal and it may seem normal, The truth is, those are 2 days that I would have had completely or almost completely free to focus on like my business or to get ahead in self improvement. Those are 2 days that I had available for more progress, and I gave them up. Now, of course, I want to quickly mention that this shouldn't become a thing where you wake up in the morning and the first thing you think of is like, oh, nothing matters but my business first, business before anything. My whole point here is that you have to make a transition from these old, degenerate friends to a period of loneliness to having people around you who have the same ambitions as you. Wouldn't it be amazing that instead of having a friend who you have to essentially fight with every time and get into a debate as to why video games are bad for you, wouldn't it be so much better if you just had a friend who didn't play video games at all? And so when you guys hung out, it would be something worthwhile. You weren't just completely wasting time. You'd have a deep discussion here and there. Of course, you laugh and hang out and chill, but it would look completely different to how the average person chills and hangs out, where they invite their friend over, they watch a movie, they play video games, and they're completely silent to each other. They don't say anything. Or they go and do drugs. But the first thing is you have more time for your mission. You have more time to focus on things that are important to you. Now, the second thing is that you get away from people who you don't like. Truth be told, I didn't like a lot of the people who I was hanging out with. I didn't like them. And these thoughts would sit in my mind that, oh, I talked to this person, but they acted like this, and why would they do that? How do they not see what I'm seeing? I would talk about how, oh, understanding politics is so important, because it is. The whole world is influenced by the political space. If you can't understand it, you can't make change. You can't understand what is being done to you and your community. And so I would say these things, and the looks I would get laughed at. And I'm gonna be honest, although I come on here and say control your emotions and I am a stoic, during these moments, internally I would be angry. To be honest, like in the moment, I would hate these people, even though I know that's wrong. During these earlier years of self-improvement and philosophy, I would despise being around these people because I would just keep thinking, these guys are so fucking stupid. How can you have this little knowledge in your head? And obviously, this is very bad because I used to be one of them. I used to be someone without any real information in my head. Of course, I would say like smart things here and there, but by happenstance or because someone else told me. It wasn't because I had thought about it and, reflected on it and sat down and really wrote about it and thought, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't. I would just hear a fact, believe it, and spew it out to someone else, and I'd get called smart. That was the reality of my pre-self-improvement years. But the point is, I used to despise being around these people who had nothing to do with me. They weren't on self-improvement. They weren't going to quit junk food. They're not going to quit video games. None of that. And here I am, trying to talk to them about philosophy. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. They don't understand it. And so, when you are in this transition of having people to being alone, you have this moment of peace, of relief. Like, you wake up and you're thinking, oh my God, thank goodness I don't have to deal with so-and-so today. Thank goodness I don't have to have this argument for the 5 millionth time. Life becomes easier when you're around people who you either like or you're not around anyone. Or, let me rephrase that. Life becomes easier when you're away from the people you don't like, or when you're away from the people you don't like and with the people you like. In both situations, you need to be away from those that you don't like because they drag you down. You spend so much time unnecessarily stressing over so and so who said this thing, who isn't understanding what you're saying. Forget them. They're not worth your time. If you Here's the rule of thumb you should follow when trying to convince someone to get on self-improvement. You tell them once, okay? They don't listen to you. Okay, they don't listen. You tell them a second time. Okay, they don't listen. Fine, whatever. You tell them a third time. If they don't listen this third time, forget about them. Let them go. Try not to go over 5 times of trying to convince somebody, because if they're going to be so stubborn to see you make progress and still say no, you can't be around that. Because if they're stubborn enough to neglect themselves, they're stubborn enough to neglect you. The next thing is that when you're in this transition period, you have more time for self-introspection. Self-introspection and self-discovery are the 2 most important things that you have to do on your self-improvement journey. If I never sat down and asked myself why I act the way I do, why I do the things I do, whether or not there's something deep in my subconscious that I'm not willing to confront, if I hadn't done those things, I wouldn't be able to sit down and talk to you guys about philosophy, about these real world matters on how to improve yourself, on socio-political issues. If I had not went within and asked myself, what is your moral code? What are your values? What are your principles? I wouldn't be able to tell you not how to act, but I wouldn't be able to guide you in the right direction. I wouldn't be able to sit here and have a self-improvement channel. That wouldn't make any sense. Because if I don't even understand what's within myself, how can I tell you what's within you? How can I tell you how can I tell you to take the next step here if I haven't done that myself? It's the same kind of logic with the phrase if you cannot love yourself, you can't love other people has. The same meaning behind both phrases. If you can't love yourself, you can't reciprocate love to another person. If you don't understand yourself, you can't help other people understand themselves. And that's from the altruistic side of things. Even with your own purpose, if you don't do self-introspection, how do you know where to take the next step? How do you know what you need? You could go, oh, well, I want to have a business, I want to make money. Fine, I guess, but do you understand why you picked drop shipping as your business? Is that your purpose? Probably not, right? So to have a meaningful life, you need to self-introspect. And if you are taken away from this self-introspection because the people around you are infecting you with their indulgence, with their bad habits, you're going to see a lot less progress. And you might get dragged back into that life of, just, oh, well, it's just one day. You might get dragged back into that life, even if you don't think it'll happen to you. Because I promise you from personal experience, you are susceptible to it. You're not invincible. And I believe I've spoken about this before on the channel. You're not invincible to going off the rails of your self-improvement. You're not invincible to these things that so many people experience when on self-improvement. You're not. So, when I tell you that having a certain group of people will literally drag you down and take you out of self-improvement, take those words seriously. Because although you don't think that now, when the moment comes, you will find that you have been slacking off for a good 3 months. And that reality will hit you like a rock. So, take these words seriously. Self-introspection is important. You need to do it. If your self-introspection is being affected by the people you're around because of their negative energy or whatnot, or you're not able to engage in a real philosophical self-discovery and conversation with them, you should probably let them go. Finally, when there's less people around, you have less of a need to conform. Now, this isn't me saying that you should abstain from people in order to be authentic, because when you do that, you essentially train your brain to be conforming when there are people around, but to only be authentic when you're by yourself. So what I recommend you do instead is keep a small friend group and just act the way you act with them, which is it has to be authentic. If they're really your friend, you should have no problem being authentic with them, and just act that way everywhere you go. So when you have less people around you, your behavior becomes less inauthentic, because during the day we have thousands of masks and performances that we're putting on for people in order to build this. I believe it was called the superego when Freud wrote about it. We're building all this appearance for other people, but more often than not, this appearance is nothing more than that. It's just appearance. It doesn't reflect who we are. And so this inauthentic behavior, it saps so much of our energy, because we're over here, we're shaking hands, we're saying hi, we're giving hugs and kisses to people. But when we come back into our homes and we're alone and we're our authentic selves, we hate everybody. Maybe that person who you smiled at and shook his hand, maybe you hate him. Maybe you never want to see his face ever again. But because you're more focused, because there's so many you feel like there's so many eyes on you, your behavior is less authentic. I'm telling you myself, I have no problem. It was only when I brought my social circle down to just one or two people that I had no problem telling someone that I didn't like their behavior, that their behavior was wrong. Before, I would have a problem because, well, these people are my friends and, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm acting authentically, because if I see behavior I don't like, I'm going to call it out, right? If you're picking on someone who's you're in a room full of people and this guy's picking on the skinniest one in the room who he knows isn't going to defend himself, I'm going to call that out, because I know this guy isn't my friend. His behavior is not authentic to myself. I don't support that. And so I'm going to call it out. Because I'm not friends with him, because I don't have any relationship with him, or because I've already let go of that relationship, I don't care what his reaction to me is. So when you close off your social circle, your behavior becomes less inauthentic. You're able to act more like yourself. You're able to be more like yourself and not have a problem with it. Because now you don't care what that one guy who you used to be friends with thinks of you. You don't give a fuck, because he has no idea what you're doing. He has no idea how great it is that you're on self-improvement. He doesn't understand that. And so, although we should do our best to help these people, and we should not treat them as our enemies, we should not, at the same time, we should not give a flying fuck what they think about us, because they don't know what's best. So, these are the advantages of being alone. And I suggest that you rewatch a section and take some notes down, because I promise you, the period of time in your life where you have to be alone, it's inevitable in self-improvement. So it's better that you go through this section again and just take some notes as like reminders and stuff, as well as take notes for the actionable step. So for your next actionable step, think about how your life could improve if you let go of a certain activity or of certain people. People, through their behavior, through their actions, can drag you down when you're trying to get onto self-improvement, like really get into self-improvement. So I just want you to imagine, like, this situation as an example. You're trying to play video games, but you have a friend or friend group that is always inviting you to play video games, telling you that you should have been there, that it was so much fun, eventually you're going to cave in and listen to them. And you're going to go back to doing the same thing that you were before. So think about how having a certain activity or having a certain friend group that goes against your values and principles and goals is going to take away from your progress. It's going to delay your progress by a lot. Now, if you cut them off, if you stop hanging out with them, you cut the time needed to improve to quit that addiction by nearly half, even more, by like 75%. Obviously, these are arbitrary numbers. It's not based off anything real, but you get my point. The difference is significant when you distance yourself from a certain activity. Now, of course, you should still be trying to build resistance to it so that you can see the thing and not be triggered by it. But at the same time, you should not have friends where there's feelings attached, who are essentially obligating you to do the thing that you don't want to do, the thing that you want to get away from. So that's your next actionable step. Think about how your life could improve if you cut off certain people or certain activities. I mentioned this in the previous actionable step, that people can become dead weight through their actions, behavior, and etc. They can be weighing you down and preventing you from reaching your full potential. Now, an important thing to note is that none of this is malicious. More often than not, people are not trying to actively hurt you and try to get you off of your self-improvement. They're not doing that. They're simply acting the way they're asking you to participate in the things that they like. But they just don't realize that what they like is more harmful than it is good. They haven't thought about this and introspected on it the way people like you and me have. I'm sitting down and making a video about this. You're watching a video about this. You also, more likely than not, watch videos on how to avoid entertainment, on why entertainment is bad for you. You've seen that content, you've thought about it yourself, and you avoid it, at least as much as you can. These people, when they become dead weight, it's not because they actively want to prevent you from achieving your goals. It's because you have surpassed them. Now, the habits that you do, the lifestyle that you're leading, is different from that of your friend. And so because of that, to you it feels like dead weight, but to your friend, he may be happy for you, but he still wants you to play video games because, well, he's not trying to quit that. So the point of this section is that people eventually become dead weight when you are on self-improvement. They inevitably become people who weigh you down when you're trying to achieve your goals. But this isn't a malicious thing. You're not doing it actively knowing it. It's simply a byproduct of you improving yourself to a degree where your lifestyle surpasses that of theirs. So for your next actionable step, you need to identify the dead weight and cut them off. Now, the phrase cut them off sounds pretty aggressive, but I just want to remind you that this doesn't have to be aggressive. You can sit them down and have a sincere, genuine discussion, and even invite them to embark on the same journey as you. Because remember, this whole cutting people off, this is a last resort. This is something that we do after we've already tried to convince them and they just don't listen. Because we want to see people succeed, but at the same time, we can't sacrifice our own success for them. We can't sacrifice our own purpose for them unless our purpose is sacrificing. Unless our purpose is selflessness and sacrificing, we can't expect ourselves to sacrifice our mission, our purpose, for the sake of someone else's pleasure. So, someone else's temporary, indulgent pleasure, I should say. So identify the dead weight and cut them off. Now, this can either be a direct, sit them down and tell them, listen, I don't want to be friends anymore, or you can slowly distance yourself away from them, talk to them less, and then eventually you cut them off, but not really, like not formally. You stop communicating with them essentially, and you lose contact. But this way, I really don't recommend, because I believe it's kind of iffy. You're telling someone you want to disconnect with someone, but you're not brave enough to sit down and look them in the eyes and say, listen, we have two different lifestyles. If you're not going to embark on this journey, we have to part ways. It seems almost, I don't want to say like backstabbing, but almost like a sneaky, not very masculine way of handling things. You want to get away from this guy. Instead of being direct, you just slowly distance yourself. And not to mention the fact that if you guys regain contact, you really have no other choice but to be direct, unless you want to reignite the friendship. At least temporarily so, obviously, because you guys won't get along as well. But you get my point. If you slowly cut them off, you have to be direct later anyway if they somehow reconnect with you. So it's better to just be direct from the beginning and let them know respectfully, obviously, that you have a different lifestyle and that you can't be around them anymore, because the differences are just too drastic for you to be able to pursue your mission whilst also entertaining this friendship. So, to summarize, be friendly, be respectful, but I recommend that you be direct, though that isn't the way that you have to do it. If you want to, you can slowly distance yourself and all that. With that, I'm able to conclude this video. Thank you all for watching. I'm very excited for this channel because I have a lot of videos in the works. I have a lot of articles that I'm ready to write and get out there. I have some really good video essays that I'm going to put out. If I'm being honest, the one that I'm going to post this November, which is on the longevity of life, just to give you an idea, I'm not very happy with it. It's not... I'm still going to post it, and I want you guys to let me know what you think about it, because I want you guys to see yourself what it's like when we procrastinate, like the results that come out of procrastinating and not being able to focus properly. When I was editing that video, I was not focusing, and even when I was recording it, I was not focused. I was not really there in the zone. When I was the edits are like mediocre. My reciting of the script was pretty mediocre. So, although I'm not super happy with it and like thrilled to release it, I still am going to post it because, one, the information there is very valuable, and if the video is too painful to watch, you can go to my Medium page where the article will be posted. And two, I want you guys to see yourself the consequences of not being able to focus, the consequences of doing a half-assed job, and how much of a difference it makes when you're trying to pursue something real, something that's actually important. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. As always, give me your criticisms in the comments below, and don't hold back. Subscribe, like, all that. I have some videos up here at the end card, so you can check them out as well if you're interested. Check out my community posts, because I make a lot of poll questions so I can improve the channel. Check out my Medium page, link in the description for articles. And yeah, goodbye.